I read your opinion piece in on IOL called "I Don't Want to Be Forced to Live Anywhere Anymore." Talk me through how people are being forced away from the CBD in the city of Cape Town.
Roscoe, I think today we don't see it as being forced because we don't live in the apartheid era anymore. So my parents were definitely forced out in I think, 1970, as their house was the last one standing, and they had to witness all the other houses being bulldozed. So that is basically, forced. But I think that today, government's strategy is um, is trying to blend the so-called way of doing things according to the book, and that makes it seem normal for people of color, blacks or coloreds, to create living spaces away from the city center. So today we kind of accept that, but if you go back into your history, and because I want to know, where I came from, so I started asking questions as a child. So, Daddy, where did you come from? Mommy, where do you come from? And why do we live where we live? Because it's so far,
Yes.
So, when I was about 6 months, we moved to Atlantis, and that is all I know. We didn't move around. I think I was lucky. I was the lucky sibling that didn't have to move around. All the others, they were moved from one place to the next, and Atlantis was our final destination. So growing up in Atlantis, I didn't see any other race. It was just coloreds. It was bush. It was sand. There was one English primary school, one English medium high school, one little center, quite a few churches though. And so I kind of grew up with Atlantis. But the way Atlantis is still marginalized. That, and growing up, you tend to see what is happening, and you tend to question, but why are we still not ahead? Why are we not advanced? Why do we still have to pay for toilets at our upgraded mall? When you go to Tableview, when you go to any other mall, you don't pay to use the toilets. But in Atlantis, you have, and like double standards. So, and then you start traveling and you see, oh, but there's two tarred pavements. They are bicycle lanes, and we don't have that. Not that it's quite a need, but then you see the difference between neighborhoods, and you start asking questions. So, growing up, we would go to town maybe once a month. My dad, obviously, because he was born in District 6, he grew up there. He was in town, often, and he would meet up with his buddies. So they were all scattered. And, he would take me through Parade, Golden Acre. The one thing that stood out for me was Rag. I don't know if you remember Rag.
The
Rag that
UCT
used
rag, yes.
That's right. And that was, I think, a lot of coloreds, enjoyed that. And it gave them an opportunity to come back to town, to come back, where they used to live, where everything happened. And so that was kind of a highlight for me. And then, you have to take the bus back, at least 2 hours traveling on the bus. And your day was over. So
I want to get back to. I'm going to get on to the time that it takes for people who were displaced to get into the city. But I just want to. I want you to take me through something that's happening here in this video. So, as you can see, can you describe what's happening? What's happening in this video?
Okay, so that's a modern pic of where we used to live. That's the fruit and veg, or a food lovers market. And then the video takes you back to what it used to be. And that is when my parents still stayed there, because the houses are still there. So that is exactly where I could have stayed today, if it wasn't for apartheid and forced removals. And the first time I saw that, I was very emotional, because I could actually now compare, and I could see where they lived, because the house is no longer there. But that picture shows that there were houses still, I don't know which year that was, but So yeah, it's quite emotional for me to actually watch this video.
So we can see in this video the way it was at the moment. That's the way it was. And then in 2021, we can see that the city has not developed that land at all. So,
That's correct.
and this is where you used to stay. This is your the home of your grandfather, grandmother, where you were forced out.
Yeah, that's correct.
And you
My
say
grandma stayed there.
you say that now you work in town, and this is where you park your car in the morning.
That's correct. On the little open space, as you come in from Canterbury, so you see that little green pitch.
Yes.
So that is where I park. And up until recently, I was like, oh my word, I'm walking. I could have been walking home. I could have been walking home, walking back to work, and I would have had such a lot of time to spend on myself and my family, and that has been taken away from me. So it's until you experience and really focus on how your life could have been, if it wasn't for apartheid. It is that moment that you feel like you've been robbed, you've been deprived. You could have had a better life even. I attended Cape Tech, and I had to travel by bus. I had to get that early morning bus. Although classes started at 8 o'clock, I had to get that early morning bus to be in time. So again, I could have walked to Cape Tech, and I could have walked back home. I could have had more time to study instead of, being so tired when you get home. You don't feel like eating the books, but you are forced to eat the books because how else are you going to pass? So I just feel deprived.
So that's basically the essence of spatial apartheid. Even though apartheid officially ended in the 90s, the spatial apartheid and the legacy of that continues and is enforced in cities and in the city of Cape Town. And I want to play a little game or do a little experiment with you to illustrate the lived reality of the spatial apartheid. Let's pretend that I live in Sea Point and you and I both work in the same building in Strand Street in the city center. So even though we earn the same salary, even though we work in the same building, let's look at the differences in our lives. Okay, so you live in Atlantis and you got to get to Strand Street. What time do you wake up in the morning?
Okay, so you would have to wake up at least 5 o'clock in the morning to catch a bus before 6 o'clock.
Okay.
I think before the My City, we would have to leave. The last express bus was at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
If you missed that bus, you would get to the city after 8 o'clock. So
Okay. But
that
now remember,
bus.
we both work for
Yeah.
in the same thing, in the same building, and let's say our boss is gonna dock your wages if you come after 8 o'clock, eh? So you gotta be there at 8 o'clock for the latest.
You've got to be there. That's right. You've got to be there at 8 o'clock. So which means you've got to wake up at least by 5 o'clock.
Okay.
Many other people traveling would wake up at least 4:30. I normally would wake up at 5 o'clock, run down the road, and it's dark and it's unsafe. But I had to catch that bus. If I miss that bus, then I'm late. You can be guaranteed you're going to be late. You're going to get a warning for being late, and there's nothing else you can do. Or you would have to run to the taxi rank, which is maybe 10 minutes away from where the bus stop is, pay that extra rands for the taxi. You already purchased your monthly or your weekly for the bus. Now you have to have extra money to take the taxi so that you can be on time.
Just for your if while all of this is happening, I stay in Sea Point. I'm still sleeping, by the way, to get to the same place. I'm setting my alarm for 7 o'clock in the morning, and I'm hitting snooze. But all the way till 7:15. Okay, right.
Yeah,
so
you know, Roscoe. Sorry, man. I'm just
No problem.
as I go along, I'm thinking there's not even time to grab a cup of coffee.
Oh no, I'm
definitely
grabbing coffee at 7:15. Yeah, no problem for me.
So I'm exhausted when I get to town. When I get to work, I'm exhausted. I can't wait for that first cup of coffee when I get to the office.
No, I'm getting there fresh as a daisy. So then we both arrive at work at 8 o'clock. Okay, how long did it take you to get to work?
It would take me at least two hours, maximum 2 hours, depending on the traffic.
2 hours. Okay. I'm there
Yeah.
in 15, 20 minutes. I'll Uber there plus all. Right.
Yeah.
So we both knock off at the same time at 4 o'clock. What's your journey home like?
Sure, the same. You have to rush for that. The last freeway was also at 6 in the evening. So if you missed that freeway, you would have to take a longer way home. So again, about 2 hours, depending on the traffic.
So leaving it for So by the time you're on the bus, I'm sitting in Biscuit Mall having a coffee, by the way, with my other colleagues who live in the area. So
you know what,
just for you.
Exactly. I often had to skip drinks or coffees after work. I said no. I have to catch my bus.
Yeah.
So you would, people living in town would enjoy, before going home, they would enjoy a coffee or a drink or just some socializing. I didn't have that. You had to catch a bus to get home.
So then
you would,
go on.
Yep. And then you would obviously think about, I have to cook. I have to get things ready,
Yeah. But before you get there, before you get home, you have to walk from the bus stop to your house.
That's correct.
Okay, so what's that journey like?
Look, my house is about 10 minutes away from the bus stop. You just want to get home and relax, kick off your shoes, and so that is basically what you want to do. Most often, people traveling that journey would, as soon as they get into the bus, they would sit and sleep because it's almost like they're catching up on sleep. Everybody would do that, So you get off, you go home, and then you relax. You try to relax.
So then you have to do cooking. You have to cook and do the washing. Okay. So how long does that take?
So let's say I would get the 4:30, maybe the 5 o'clock bus. I would get home to 7. That's supper time.
Yeah. Okay.
That's more or less supper time, So I still have to cook. I have to prepare. I have to clean up. 9 o'clock, I'm done.
Okay, so you're done. So by the time you're starting to cook, I'm ordering Uber Eats with all the money I'm saving on transport. Remember, we're earning the same amount of money. The only difference is where we stay. So my supper will come, like, let's say, for example, 45 minutes later while you're still cooking.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. Okay. And this is also one of the things that, you now, here's the other thing. You drive on Marine Drive or you ride in Marine Drive and then you see all these people jogging and cycling and walking and you long to do that and you can't do that because I'm on my way home. And by the time I get home, I don't have the energy. It's dark. There's nothing. You don't have a life, basically. Your life is waking up in the morning, getting to work, rushing back in the evening, cooking food, seeing to your family, sleep, same routine.
And then what time do you go to bed?
So I'm a nachtuil. So if I'm not in bed by 10 o'clock, then I take long to sleep, to fall asleep. So that would be 10, 11 o'clock. Yeah. And then that few hours of sleep, and most often I don't sleep right through. I often wake up during the night. So broken sleep again for me, so it's not as if I'm getting a full 5 hours sleep.
Yeah. Oh no, I can stay up as long as I want because it only takes me 20 minutes to get into work. So I can, I'm on Netflix, I'm watching Squid Game, I'm doing all of these things because I stay, because spatial apartheid works for me. Again, that's not my story. That's just a hypothetical story about how, if in this example, if we're earning the same amount of money, working in the same place, how you're disadvantaged by spatial and structural apartheid. So
there's one more thing, Roscoe. There's one more thing. Traveling that distances also puts you off from studying because classes would be at night, and how would you get home at night? So you blocked, you limited, to maybe just to extend your education, etc. So I think it's not fair.
So let's talk about the original sin. And you write an account of how your mother told you about about the forced removal. And
Yeah.
it goes into you go into depth, and I'll put the link to this article in the description. But can you just tell me the story of that forced removal that still affects your life and the life of your family to this day?
So my mom and dad were the last to live in the house that my grandmother rented. So apparently the house was a jolly house. Everybody came there, you know. My dad had how many siblings? I can't count now, but yeah. So everybody still lived around there. Um, and what you had was obviously you had neighbors and other family members living close by. My one of my aunt's husbands, he was a tailor, and so obviously he made the gear for the coons. So that was a hustle and bustle, you know, house until forced removals kicked in, and so one by one they left. But my dad was very stubborn. He did not allow the apartheid government to control him, and he didn't want to leave. And this is where we were the last family, or they were the last family. They had three boys. If it happened in 1970, my mom was pregnant with the youngest boy. And that I realized now in the week, you know, your mommy, you were pregnant and you had three toddlers. And you guys had to just leave everything and move to Menenberg. So when she told me, you know, that time they didn't know Menenberg. It was a strange area. It was something new. The apartheid government just told them, this is where you're going to be placed. Houses are being built there for you. You need to go. There wasn't consultation. There wasn't a choice, you know. And obviously families and communities or neighborhoods were split because now you lived in a strange area and you didn't know the next person. So you couldn't trust, you know. So I think that was for especially for my dad, it was very, very hard on him because he was born in District 6. He grew up there. My mom only moved when she was about in the 20s. I think she moved to Bloemhof Flats and she stayed with family, with her family. But then I asked the mom, but didn't you feel upset or emotional? She told me there wasn't time to feel anything. That was, you know, what was asked of them or instructed. They had to leave, and they just had to make the best of it. So how do you fight a system when you have to take care of your family? And my mom was the one that you know that was always working. My dad had about like a seasonal job. He was a artisan. So my mom had to keep the family together. And knowing my mom, she never complained, you know, and there are certain stories that I heard for the first time because she's the type of person that she didn't complain. She had to be the strong one and she had to ensure that her family was taken care of.
So, Joy, one of the lines that really got me in the piece that you wrote was one of the few advantages of living in Atlantis is that it takes more than an hour to commute to town, so you have lots of time to think. So, Joy, with that lots of time to think, what do you think should happen to undo the spatial apartheid that still exists in the city of Cape Town?
You know, Roscoe, I think when we had our first democratic elections, you know, people had this high hope of, you know, things would become better, things would change. Um, I think that things could have improved, and the the government at the time, I think they tried, but it's also all spheres of government have to have to look at the fact that forced removals affected many lives. You know, you can look at the Cape Flats, you look at Atlantis, and there's a lot of empathy, and people need to understand why these socioeconomic issues are existing today. And I think that is one of the reasons, because what happened to those families? What happened to those parents? They were broken. My dad would always speak about, his days growing up. He could play at the foot of Table Mountain. I can only dream of doing that. He would walk from District 6 to Woodstock. I can't do that. He had many exciting times growing up. So, in order for government, especially the Western Cape or the local municipality, they can bring that difference. They can improve. We've identified sites or within when Brett and Patricia was still within the city of Cape Town, they saw the need. They obviously did their research. It's not just the District 6 housing phases that's happening now. That's something else. But there are other sites that were identified to try and bring back people or generations like me. We are working now. Our families were forcibly removed. Our parents may not wanted to come back, but that doesn't mean that the kids doesn't want to come back. That doesn't mean it didn't affect us. And if there was an opportunity to correct the injustice of the past in erecting housing projects, then why not? This would have been a good opportunity for both the local and provincial government, to recognize the colored people, the black people, the Muslims, the Christians, all those who were removed from District 6. It would have been a good opportunity to fix what was wrong. And they didn't do that. They're still keeping us away. They still, there's always barriers, there's boundaries. So that tells me I'm not good enough to stay where my parents stayed. I'm not good enough to live in Cape Town. I'm not good enough to live or to move back into the inner city. What is best for me, other people decided. A government still decides, you don't deserve this. You belong on the outskirts of Cape Town where we don't have to see you. You are part of the labor force. That is all that we need from you. We need your money when you travel. We all know who owns the bus companies or the transport companies. Your money is good enough at the retailers. I'm not going to mention any names. Your money is good enough to boost their economy, but you are not good enough to come and stay closer to where you work. And I think that is very sad. And I'm going to fight for that. I want to come back.
Joy, I'm going to give you the last word after I read the last few paragraphs of your piece. And full disclosure, you are a good party candidate for Ward 115 in Atlantis. I will give you an opportunity to plug or have the final word. But I think I really want to leave my audience with the last few of your paragraphs. You write, I don't believe these Cape Townians share the same conservative values as those who lead the city council. I don't believe that if they understood what was at stake, they'd agree with the cancellation of the Lil's entire affordable housing initiative, or with the city subsequently leasing one of the 5 identified sites to a private property developer for parking. Instead, I believe many residents in the area have voted for the DA in the past only because it is regarded as a lesser evil than voting for the ANC. Meanwhile, we live in Atlantis and our home remains vacant and derelict. Joy Davids, any final words?
Yeah, Roscoe, I must just correct you. Ward 115 is actually stretches from Salt River, Woodstock, District 6. That,
right.
That of course, yeah, up until
Ma'am. Right.
Yeah. So it's almost like it's meant to be. I should be the candidate, because I want to come home. I don't believe that the majority of the Cape Townians feel the same way that the DA-led city of Cape Town is treating us. I think that media was kept away from people. Obviously, we know what happened in the apartheid era. People didn't know what was happening to other races. We didn't know, and I think there would have been a strong rejection, especially from the white community, if they knew. But now here's the time to expose what really happened. And this is the time for them to also, support what we really want. We want to come back. It doesn't mean that we're bringing the gangster mentality, because that is how we are labeled. We are alcoholics, we are drug addicts, we have teenage pregnancies, and that is not who we are. We want a better life. So give us that opportunity. Those who can afford to live within the city center or in the city, give us that opportunity. Help us to get there. At the end of the day, it was a white apartheid government that kicked us out. And so we feel that, all the whites were with him because nobody stood up against that. There were a few white families maybe that, that felt the sentiment. But now it's open, it's exposed. We're living in a democratic country. So we need the voices of everybody. Cape Town belongs to all who live in it, just like South Africa belongs to all who live in it. Give us this time to at least correct the injustice of the past. Don't paint anybody with a brush if you don't know them, and I think that is also the problem. We read all these negative things about different races, and so we've made up our mind, nope, that is how they are, we must keep them out. I know that they are there was a lady from Constantia who actually sent an email after reading this article in the Cape Times, and she was, why can't we help her? Why can't the DA do something about it? What is the DA going to do? The same question. What is the DA going to do about this? Are they just going to erase me? Are they going to erase this article? Are they going to erase everything that we're mentioning here today, and say that it's nonsense? It's just a political stunt or whatever. It can't just be a political stunt. It's about my life. It is about other people who may share the same sentiment. There are so many people that's not speaking about this because we were taught you don't speak out. Leave it be. There's nothing you can do. Up until today, my mom feels the same way, but I'm not my mom. I am Joy Davids, and I have a voice, and I will speak for those that don't have the voice.
Joy Davids, your article, I don't want to be forced to live anywhere anymore. The link is in the description. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Roscoe.